Hello and welcome to the Dailies. Ukrainian peace negotiations alongside Europe's competing proposal to the US framework took center stage across global news outlets as commentators underscored the growing divide between Washington and European leaders over the terms Kyiv should accept. Coverage highlighted Europe's attempt to offer a more balanced roadmap, prompting renewed debate over the diplomatic direction of the war. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, the targeted killing of a senior Hezbollah commander drew intense regional focus, with Israeli and Arab media warning of potential escalation and the risk of a broader flare-up along the northern frontier. We'll start with American media, which portrayed the Ukraine talks as progressing but fragile, with Trump's attacks on Kyiv undermining the diplomacy. They emphasized the contrast between constructive negotiations and Trump's volatility, as well as Europe's strong pushback. Coverage also framed the European plan as more balanced alternative on territory and security. Overall, outlets said Washington now faces pressure to adjust and work more closely with Kyiv and European partners. The New York Times explores how Volodymyr Zelensky faces one of the most consequential tests of his wartime presidency, navigating a U.S. peace plan widely viewed in Ukraine as dangerously favorable to Russia. The analysis portrays Zelensky as a leader repeatedly forced to operate from a position of weakness, yet often able to turn crises to his advantage through political agility and strategic communication. The piece also contends that Geneva negotiations and Trump's public criticisms serve as the latest pressures. But it also argues that the plan has also inadvertently strengthened Zelensky at home by shifting attention away from a deepening corruption scandal. The piece captures a leader balancing battlefield setbacks, domestic turmoil, and also international diplomacy at a precarious moment. In Europe, the media broadly welcomed Europe's own counter-proposal as more balanced, arguing it avoids the outright territorial concessions and unilateral terms embedded in the US draft. They stress that European capitals insist on Ukraine retaining possibility of NATO membership and maintaining sovereignty, pushing back strongly on elements they see as too favorable to Russia. Top outlets note the emerging division, with European leaders demanding deep involvement and revisions to ensure any agreement doesn't undermine Ukraine's long-term security. The Irish Times outlines this bold counter-proposal from European nations to the US-backed 28-point peace plan for Ukraine, describing it as a radically different from Trump's plan. Also, the piece explains that Britain, France, and Germany jointly presented a plan omitting several pro-Russia clauses in the US framework and insisting on full respect for Kyiv's sovereignty. Now, unlike the US draft, the European version avoids preordained territorial handovers, instead calling for negotiations from the existing line of contact, while keeping also NATO membership on the table. The piece notes the revision increases Ukraine's permitted army size cap and rejects forced withdrawals from the Donbass. It frames the move as a coordinated attempt by European capitals to recalibrate the shape of negotiations and also preserve long-term European security norms. The Telegraph published an investigation portraying the Trump administration's early Ukraine peace proposal as heavily influenced, even shaped, by Kirill Dmitriev, Vladimir Putin's sanctioned money man and longtime emissary. The piece reconstructs the unusual chain of events: Dmitriev's discreet arrival in Miami, his meetings with Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff, and also the accidental tweet suggesting the draft originated with K. Also, the analysts cited by the paper argue the plan bears unmistakable Russian fingerprints, depicting it as a deliberate influence operation aimed at normalizing Kremlin's demands. It emphasizes how senior US officials, European allies, and even parts of the White House were blindsided, raising serious questions about who was truly driving the negotiations. The result, it concludes, is a diplomatic fiasco that destabilizes trust among Western partners. Back to the New York Times, which offers a vivid, sharp look at how Zohran Mamdani's unexpectedly cordial meeting with President Trump sent shockwaves through the online MAGA ecosystem. Instead of the anticipated ideological clash between the two, the Oval Office encounter was amicable, leaving conservative influencers scrambling to recalibrate their narrative. The analysis captures the fractured responses. Some MAGA loyalists praised Trump's charm, others portrayed the moment as strategic restraint, and a handful of far-right figures accused the movement of hypocrisy. The piece illustrates widening rifts within the right, where infighting and ideological confusion overshadow any unified message. Politico captures a dramatic reshaping within the MAGA movement as President Trump publicly rejects Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and embraces New York Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. The analysis argues that this marks a dramatic shift beyond personality politics, spotlighting internal fractures in the conservative coalition. The report also explains traditional hard-right voices are shown scrambling for a response, revealing deep ideological dissonance over strategy and also messaging. The piece suggests that the MAGA brand may be entering an uncertain phase of redefinition, centered more around personal loyalty to Trump than rigid factional loyalty. Another story grabbed attention in the US was the resignation of Marjorie Taylor Greene, which many outlets saw as marking a rare public crack in Trump's dominance, with some Republicans beginning to openly break ranks. The Washington Post catches this rare moment of fracture within the conservative coalition, showing how President Trump's embrace of the tech industry and deregulation in artificial intelligence is rattling his base. The piece explains that while Trump pushes a pro-tech investment agenda, repeals regulations and moves to block state law on AI, key Republicans and grassroots MAGA supporters, including also governors like Ron DeSantis and lawmakers such as Josh Hawley, are indeed pushing back. They're warning that this rapid growth of AI threatens jobs, threatens energy costs, and family stability. The report captures the tension between the president's pivot towards Silicon Valley and the populist instincts of his working-class supporters. To the Middle East, as Israeli media scramble to cover the recent assassination of a senior Hezbollah commander with a tone of strategic caution. Outlets reported that the IDF is on high alert for possible retaliation, but emphasized that Israel's zero-tolerance policy remains intact, with no immediate large-scale escalation evident. The Jerusalem Post provides a concise but detailed profile of Haytham Ali Tabtabai, identified as a senior military commander within Hezbollah, who was reportedly killed in the Israeli strike. The piece traces Tabtabai's role in Hezbollah's military hierarchy, his strategic importance, and the broader implications of his death for the group's operations in southern Lebanon. Also, it draws on official statements and regional reporting. The piece suggests that the strike could significantly disrupt Hezbollah's command capacity and shift dynamics along the northern border. The Times of Israel reported that the chief of the military officially dismissed the senior intelligence officers responsible for the Southern Command following the catastrophic events of October 7. The decision is portrayed as a dramatic accountability move as the leadership seeks to rebuild trust and address operational failures. The piece outlines how the dismissed officers reportedly failed to anticipate or prevent the breach, prompting institutional shakeups in the defense establishment. It also underscores public outrage and political pressure inside Israel, emphasizing the broader political and security consequences. And we'll stay with the time of Israel, where we will end with this striking report, which shows that nearly 1 in 4 Israelis are considering leaving the country, according to a recent poll reflecting mounting concerns over security, political instability, and also economic anxiety. The report explores how the findings reveal widespread disillusionment across demographic groups, including younger voters and long-standing residents. Analysts cited in the piece link the sentiment to the ongoing conflict, political polarization, and fear over the future of democracy and governance. That's it for today. Thanks for watching the Dailies, only on Al Arabiya English.